It's time for the Hockey Writers Grindline, a weekly show covering everything Detroit Red Wings. Brought to you by our own iconic top line of Wings writers. Sit back and enjoy The Grind.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Devin Little, and this is the Hockey Writers Grindline, the Red Wings roundtable for the hockey writers. For the past 5 years, the Grindline has been a weekly column for the hockey writers, and now we're here to talk some hockey. We're excited for another opportunity to discuss the latest Red Wings news, rumors, and strategy with the Hockeytown faithful. So, including myself, let's introduce our version of Chris Draper, Kirk Maltby, and Darren McCarty, starting with Ian. Ian, I love the digs. How you doing?
I'm doing great, Devin. So yes, this is my my Blasty Calgary Flames reverse retro. We're going Jersey Day today, so I thought I'd go with the Blasty. Calgary's in the news because they just beat Ottawa Thursday night, right? So that's why everything's looking up for Calgary. But I'm excited to do this show about the Red Wings. This is actually gonna be a good show. I'm excited to see this show, how it turns out, what we all have to say.
We're off to a great start. Speaking of good digs, Pat, loving the purple, got to represent your Arizona Coyotes. How you doing?
Well, we had to suffer the past couple of games through practice jerseys in disguise as reverse retro. So figured it was time to pull out and show what a real reverse retro jersey looks like. So, in the spirit, we all got our hockey sweaters on. Now's the time.
Yes, and for myself, I decided to show off how the Red Wings can actually use silver in a successful jersey. So got to rep that Centennial.
Interesting bit of trivia right off the bat, Devin. I don't know if you remember this, but I remember this only because I literally wrote an article about the reverse retro jerseys. Yes, I wrote an article about jerseys. And the silver in the reverse retro is inspired from the very one that you're wearing. So, way to tie that all together. That's well done.
Yeah. See, we know what we're doing here at the Grindline. All right, so we're looking good. We're sounding good. Let's dive on into this week's episode. So, we just had another week of Red Wings hockey. We had 4 games, 2 against the Blackhawks, 1 against the Columbus Blue Jackets, and then last night against the Carolina Hurricanes. In regards to the Blackhawks series, Ian and I appeared on this week's episode of Blackhawks Banter to kind of in-depth discuss that series. So if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend that you do so. We had a lot of fun chatting with the gang over there. And so to kind of kick off the show, I want to kind of gauge everyone's thoughts on the week that was. Ian, I want to start with you. How'd you feel about this week?
When we were on Monday, I said it was a mixed bag with the Blackhawks banter. I think we both agreed it was a mixed bag of results, winning and losing against Chicago. And then that bag got even worse with the loss to Columbus and Carolina. Really underwhelming last 3 games. Especially on Tuesday against the Blue Jackets. That one was probably the worst out of all. Even though we lost 7-2 to Chicago on Sunday, I thought the Tuesday performance was even worse than that. Interested to see where we go from here. We can only go up, right?
Theoretically, right? Pat, do you have anything to add?
You win 2 in a row, you feel okay. Yeah, that 2 in a row got you to 7 wins, but still, it was 2 in a row. 1 more, and we would have had that thing called a winning streak, which would have been very exciting. But instead, you get outscored the next 3 games, 16-5. That 2-game stretch was fun. It was fun in back-to-back games to see them win. They were one of the only teams to have not won back-to-back games all year, so at least they strung that together. And the tale of the tape for them, both literal and proverbial, seems to be just one bad period.
Yeah,
they seem to be going out the past few games and having one bad period. Otherwise, honestly playing better than we've really seen. Decent passing, lots of opportunities. They could have been up 3-0 yesterday if they converted on a few different plays. So it's been one bad period. I think you can take, if you're into that sort of thing, some moral victories from it. But again, overall, after the back-to-back wins, just to see them get trounced the way they have the last 3 games was disappointing.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the one bad period thing. Last night against the Hurricanes, they hung in there and they really played them even for the first 40 minutes of the game. The problem is that there was another 20 minutes to play and they did not show up for it.
So, Devin, can I ask you guys a question really quick? Because we actually didn't really talk too much during the game yesterday. I got to know, 5 minutes left in the game, down by 2. Just because you have a face-off deep in the zone, do you pull the goalie at that stage in the game? Like, I was puzzled by that move. I felt like with 5 minutes, that's too much time, regardless of where the face-off was. And in fact, if they would have held off, they might have been able to pull out a 6th man for a 6-on-4 because Carolina took a penalty shortly thereafter, or I don't even remember which loss. Who was yesterday? Carolina or Columbus? Whoever.
Carolina.
It was Carolina. But anyways, I'm curious, and I know I'm going off itinerary a little bit, but what do you guys think about pulling the goalie with 5 minutes left down 2? Because I was infuriated by that decision.
Ian, what do you think?
I don't hate it. Like, I get it. I think analytically it makes sense. I want to say against Carolina, they did the same exact thing, maybe down. Was it the opening game of the year? Correct me if I'm wrong. It was the opening game of the year.
But I think there were more like 3 minutes there, which I'm all about 3.5, but 5 minutes. Just, anyways.
I was gonna say I don't hate it. Analytically, I think it's the right move, especially with how poor they've been scoring. I don't hate it.
So I get it. I see kind of both sides of the argument. 5 minutes is risky, no matter what team you are. If the Tampa Bay Lightning pulled their goalie with 5 minutes left, it's still risky, and they have a lot more firepower than this team does. But to Ian's point, the analytics says that's more or less the right move. I don't think numbers should completely dictate what you do, but this team struggles to score. And if you can give yourself any sort of advantage to do so, you should do it. I probably wouldn't have done it that soon, but I would definitely be thinking about it at that point, at the very least. I probably would have waited till 4 minutes, 3.5. But
I just wanted to say, remember when Waugh was the coach of the Avs?
Do
this on a consistent basis.
He basically started it.
He basically started it, but part of that was because it worked. And the reason we're talking about it and we're criticizing it is because it didn't work and it hasn't worked multiple times this year. So that's my thing with that too.
Ian, it's a perfect segue because, and you're right, it worked. And you know why it didn't work yesterday or why it hasn't worked this year? Because then they don't run the play that they're supposed to run. Mantha's standing around doing nothing. They dump the puck behind the net after they win the faceoff, which they've been doing a lot of this year.
Yes.
And there's nobody there to get it because Mantha's standing around. And I think if you got a team that's going to execute, then I get it. You hold the zone. If you get a few good opportunities, at least you got some scoring chances. Yeah, they put it in the empty net, whatever. But they didn't even get an opportunity. They won it back. They immediately dumped it deep. Nobody was there, and Carolina took it the other way and scored. And I think that's just had to get that off my chest. I know it wasn't on our agenda, but I had to get that off our chest.
Pat is heated tonight. I'm loving it.
Is it because he's in Arizona with the Coyotes reverse retro? Because that thing looks fire.
I love it. So real quick, just to close out this particular topic, to Ian's point, if Blashill pulls the goalie there and they score, he looks like an absolute genius. The problem is that they lost the faceoff or they didn't do the right play. Yeah. And within like 20 seconds, it was in the empty net. So of course it looks like the worst call ever. I'm not going to say that wasn't a risky call because it very clearly was, but I understand his thinking there. And then real quick before we pivot, I do want to give a quick shout out to Philip Zadina for his play last night. He was he looked like the player that the Red Wings are hoping that they got with the 6th overall pick.
He played like we've been talking about this entire time, like how we've been hyping him up. He finally showed that last night. It took, I don't know how many games we're into the season now, but he finally showed that and 6 weeks into the season.
Just 6 shots, too. Just absolutely filthy shots that he put past the goalie.
That second one was legit. I guess now, like obviously we've seen it. He has that in him. The next step for him now is just to do that on a consistent basis now. So pulling for you, Philip.
Absolutely.
Another player that we are pulling for that we discussed in last week's show, my boy, Evgeny Svechnikov. Last week, just to kind of set the table here, I asked for 5 games. I wanted to see him get into 5 games of action, see what he can do. If he does nothing for you, we can move on. If he does something for you, let him play. We are 4 games in. The next day after I said that, he played. He's played in 4 games. He has 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists. He got to play against his brother last night for the first time in their NHL careers, so good for them. First question on this topic, I'm going to start with you, Pat. What are your just overall impressions of him?
I think Blashill should have listened to you a lot sooner, Devin. What were 4? Did you say 4 games into the 5 games you asked for? And I mean, using the logic you just used about pulling the goalie, he's playing well. He's getting on the scoreboard, so we're loving it. If it were the other side, we'd be wondering what to do with him. But that's just it, right? He is making the most of the opportunity that he's been given, and I'm happy. I'm impressed with what I've seen. It's not easy to step in there with the big boys, especially when they've been playing this whole season, and all of a sudden now you step in. So I'd like to see a lot more of him. I wish he could have gotten something yesterday because felt like his little brother was showing him up a little bit there. But but I'd be doing the same thing. And he's fun to watch, and it was fun to watch his energy, and really cool to see him get on the board.
For sure. Ian, what have you been thinking of our Svechnikov?
You called it. You called it last week. You said give him 5 games and whatever happens, happens. And he looked like an NHL player. He looks NHL ready. I mentioned on the show last week how I thought he would be a potential trade candidate if he had shown something. I almost don't want to trade him now because he's so productive. He looks like he's been in well with the rest of the roster. He's doing what he's asked. Shout out Evgeny Svechnikov. No complaints from me through 4 games.
And 2 things from me. One, he looks hungry. He's not playing big minutes. I think the most he's played is 12, something to that tune. But he's making the most of it. And when he's on the ice, he looks like he is trying to do things. And you like to see that, especially from a guy who's had the kind of luck that he's had. You if he was looking hesitant on the ice, you almost couldn't blame him. Obviously you don't want to see that, but you would understand it. But no, he's looked confident, and good for him, because like we've already talked about, he deserves a break. And then the other thing is, I'm going to paraphrase this. I don't remember what the exact quote was, but they said on the broadcast last night that Dylan Larkin had said something to the tune of, if me being out of the lineup due to injury is what it takes for him to really get his shot, then he's glad that he's out with injury. And that's a captain. Love that from Larkin. And B, that tells me that this team loves this kid. Franz Nielsen has said in post-game interviews that he's one of the hardest workers on the team. He's got a shot like his brother. The players on this team have seen this kid work and knows how bad he wants this. So I have every reason to believe that as long as he's doing what he's been doing in these 4 games, he's going to keep getting looks. His teammates clearly like him, and that's a promising thing. Any final thoughts on Svechnikov from you two?
I think it's just got to be tough being any prospect that's been around for a few years in this organization, because you look over your shoulder and the cupboard is stocked.
Absolutely.
So there has to be a sense of not a sense of urgency necessarily, because I'm sure there is, but it's just got to be tough because next guy up, and with an organization as deep as the Red Wings, maybe not at the NHL level, but certainly within their system, and as many picks as they have coming up, and they'll probably even add to that stockpile. I'm happy to see the kid produce, because it's got to be tough to be a prospect in this organization right now.
For sure. So my next point on Svechnikov here isn't necessarily about him, but I asked for 5 games. He's getting a look, so that's good. And to your point, Pat, Svechnikov's not the only player in the system that has to be kind of looking over his shoulder. The Red Wings keep adding prospects. They're going to add a boatload more once this year's draft happens, whenever it happens. And it's another year in the system for a lot of kids. So my question to both you guys, is who do you think deserves a look? There's a lot of young guys playing in Grand Rapids right now. Some of them have already played with Detroit this year. And there's a good number of them that probably have a good case to be made that they should be playing in Detroit right now. So Ian, I want to start with you. Who is there somebody in the system that you think deserves a look like Svechnikov?
If you have had a Gordie Howe hat trick this season, you should be on the roster. That's just straight
Couldn't
up.
agree more.
I don't think there's any argument for any of us. So obviously, Giovanni Smith deserves an opportunity. I just like to see the young guys in general. I don't really have outside of Giovanni Smith, because he had the Gordie Howe hat trick. Just for that reason alone, I like to see him. But in general, I just like to see the younger players. I like to see the development. It's been a weird season outside of the NHL of trying to get hockey back, whether that's the AHL, which started, are we 2 or 3 weeks now into the AHL season, I believe. Junior, I was going to say, the AHL just started recently. Junior hockey has been very sporadic depending on where you are and what's happening in your country. I just like to see the younger guys get an opportunity, because this is a rebuild. And kind of like Pat said, we have a lot of assets coming up, a lot of young star players who are going to get another opportunity in a few years. So why not just keep playing the younger guys and see we already know what Valtteri Filppula is. I don't need to see any more of him. No, not trying to just single out him specifically, but I already know what he looks like. I already know what he's bringing to the table. And I wouldn't be upset if we had some more younger players so I could see what they're like. And are they more long-term solutions to the fix in Detroit than Valtteri Filppula?
Couldn't agree more. Giovanni Smith has played his heart out in every single game he played in Detroit. So to reward him with ice time on Grand Rapids is kind of counterintuitive, in my opinion. Pat, what do you think? Who's the player that you'd like to see get a look?
Cholowski, for sure. I just think there's too much talent there, even if he's not a top pairing. I think there's too much talent there to at least not get him there on the power play, not get him out there to get a few different looks. I know it's tough. I know it's crowded. I know they've got a lot of defense, not necessarily good defense, but they've got a lot of defense up already. Guys who they brought in to shore up the blue line that maybe isn't as shored up as we would have hoped, but what are you going to do? So I've actually been surprised we really haven't seen him. I don't think we've seen him yet this year. And we have even seen a couple of 11-7 looks and he hasn't. We haven't seen him yet. So that to me has been a little bit surprising. I would put him number 2 on the list. Ian, I couldn't agree more. You hit the nail on the head. Giovanni Smith, how is he not in the lineup? Yeah. And it would be one thing if this. It would be one thing if this team was winning games, and you're like, we don't want to mess with what's winning. You know, you got these kids. We don't. But no, this team is not winning games. They're getting outscored 16-5 over a 3-game span, and you're not seeing any kids really. I mean, you are seeing kids, but not the rotation that you'd like to see. So, I just feel like this is just a lost season. We don't know really where it's going to go. They're not really tanking, but what's really happening this season? It's just kind of there, you know?
I think Cholowski is definitely high on my list as well. It only makes sense. Svechnikov was the 2015 top pick. Cholowski's the 2016 top pick. Cholowski's had, I want to say, upwards of 80 games in the NHL. So, he's it's not like he's learning things in Grand Rapids. At least in my opinion, it doesn't seem like he is. They sent him down there to be a power play guy, and he is doing that. And when you know it, the Red Wings power play could use a guy like that. But we'll touch on that in a second. Real quick, my player that I'd like to see besides those are two very good options as well. Is Taro Hirose. And the reason why is because he is 24, like Svechnikov, and he's at that age where he's probably in his prime, or at least he's like entering his prime. So you're going to get the best look at him that you're ever going to get. 2, he's on an expiring deal. He could very well end up being Kraken bait. 3, when he played this year, he played in like 8 games, something to that tune. He looked good. He had great vision on the ice. He added a sense of being able to move the puck on the power play, and that was when they weren't scoring. So you can only imagine what he'd be doing if they were scoring. Now that they are, he's one of those guys just like Svechnikov, where you need to get a good look at the kid, otherwise the ship is going to sail. And that's where I'm coming from.
I never got taking him off the main roster. I didn't understand that. Like, I thought if anything, he would be someone who, out of all the guys we mentioned, I figured he would be the one who would at least be here full time. And
I can't put my finger on what merited his demotion, because I don't think there was anything. So
let's
just blame Filppula. Ian just wants to blame Filppula. So let's blame Filppula.
Sure.
Welcome to the Grindline episode 13, the blame Filppula episode.
But again, as long as we're not blaming Luke Glendening, because he's winning 200% of his faceoffs he's taking.
Yes,
so
that's true.
There's no Glendening criticism, but I guess Valtteri Filppula is getting criticism.
We're having fun tonight, and I hope that you're having fun watching us. If you're watching us on Facebook right now, give us a like, and be sure to check out all the other content that this page is going to be putting out, whether it's our articles or our other videos. And if you're watching us on YouTube, do the same thing. Drop a like right down there. Drop a comment so we can chat with you in a future episode, and subscribe so that way you know when our episodes come out and when all the other great content on this channel comes out. We just added Oilers Overtime to our lineup. We have a Saber Scoop. We have Blackhawks Banter, which I just mentioned, as well as the Hockey Writers Live, just the general show, among others. Flames Face Off, that Ian is actively trying to get on right now. So yeah, hit that subscribe button, because you're missing out on great content if you aren't doing it. So getting back to our show here, this Hockey Writers Grind line of ours. We've kind of mentioned it a couple times now in the last couple of minutes. The power play, after going 0 for 40, suddenly has goals in 3-4 games straight? 3 games straight?
I was going to say 3.
Yes, 3 games straight. And that's crazy. They're up to I believe 10%. They were at like 7%, which is still not good by any means. But if you're going from 7 to 10, that's improvement. Pat, I want to start with you on this topic. My question regarding the power play is: has the power play been fixed, or are we kind of seeing some natural, I guess, progression, whatever you want to call it, to the mean here?
Yeah, so definitely seeing some law of averages. We talked about the power play that was struggling so mightily, and they didn't always look bad. Yeah, they've got some trouble gaining the zone sometimes, but certainly you've seen. Well, they'll wind it up and carry it in. Why doesn't that work? But it's definitely seeing some things average out because they are generating some good opportunities. Shout out to my boy who I just wrote about a couple days ago, Christian Juice, who first of all broke the slump. He's the one who scored the first power play goal in 40 opportunities, whatever it was. And then he's assisted on at least one other power play goal. And he just has a knack on the power play he's done this more than once. Find that open space in the slot, make a move to get the defender to go by, and then just put it right up over the shoulder, right next to the peanut butter. He's just got a knack for making that move. I wish he'd turn the puck over a little bit less, but I think he's had a big role in helping this power play along. And really, they've been generating chances all along, especially the last few games before they finally broke through. And I think you're seeing some of that success finally just kind of average out, because they were not a 7% power play team. They're not a 22% power play team either, but they're somewhere in the middle. And I think it's starting to reflect that.
Yeah, I agree. Juice has been, like you said, he turns the puck over a bit more than you'd like, but guys who are trying to make plays tend to do that. Yeah. And for all things considered, this dude was a waiver pickup.
Yeah.
And he's yeah. And he's making a difference. So good on him. If you haven't checked out Pat's article, I highly recommend it. Ian, what are your thoughts on the power play?
I can't remember how many episodes ago it was, but I think we were chatting and we were talking about special teams just in the league as a whole. And I think we were saying you either have a dominant, awesome power play that you score over 30% of the time. Like I think we have like 3 or 4 teams with a power play over 30% in the league. Or you have an awful power play where you're scoring less than 10% of the time and you're just struggling to get into the zone. And I think even Vegas was going through issues like that for a while there. I could be completely wrong, but I feel like this is not we are back, we have figured it out, we are now an outstanding power play. It's just, we get a few opportunities. Kind of like Pat mentioned, Juice is really, I was surprised. He's really made an improvement on this team, which is nice to see. It's probably, I can't imagine this is going to be turned into any long-term sustainability on the power play. It's probably just for a few games here because coming up on the schedule, there is Tampa Bay, there is Carolina, I think we see. But then maybe after that stretch where we face Columbus and Dallas, there might be some improvement. But in terms of like these, short-term 3 or 4 games, I can't see us scoring many power play goals against those guys. That's the biggest accomplishment if we can score against those guys.
For sure. One thing I kind of want to point out, and we discussed it earlier this week on Blackhawks Banter. Larkin has been out pretty much the last 3 games, and that's the 3 games that they've scored on the power play. Kind of a weird coincidence. I don't think that Larkin is the reason why they haven't been able to score on the power play by any means. But I believe it was Greg from the Blackhawks team that made the point. Sometimes when you have a guy on the power play who the other team knows is your best player, they can kind of nullify your power play just by taking out that guy. And with Larkin not being in the lineup, there's a bit more guesswork going on. I don't think they're really zeroing in on Christian Juice right now. They might be now, but
Juice is loose.
Yes, exactly. So now, if Larkin's not there, maybe they're just really focusing on Mantha, and that opens up space for Juice. Maybe they're just trying to figure out what they're going to do without Larkin, and that's kind of given them the space they need to do what they've been doing. Like you guys, I don't think that we found the golden ticket. I don't think that this is the solution, or that this situation has been solved. But there's some promising things. And like Pat was saying, they were doing good things before. It's not like they've just been doing nothing for 40 attempts. The puck's just finally going in the net. And whether it's just a law of average thing, or whether it's actually execution, an execution thing, it's good to see the puck get in the net on these Bell Tire power plays. So any final thoughts? Anything we might have missed on the power play here?
So I do want to call out, and by the way, nice job on Blackhawks banter. I did catch the show. Sorry I couldn't be there.
We missed you. We missed you.
Oh, that's kind. Not true. I know you're just being nice. That's cool.
We needed the Pat Brown hot takes. That's what we were really missing on Monday.
They definitely only got like a taste of what our show is all about.
Oh yeah, no, like just like an appetizer is what we provided.
It's a pretty spicy take to say that shutting down Larkin shut down the power play, if I'm being honest, because if it were that easy, Alex Ovechkin would not have any goals on the power play.
And that's true. Yeah.
And it amazes me that teams don't pay more attention to Ovechkin on the power play. You sit there, and if you just watch him, and we've all done it, right?
Yep.
You just watch him. I would easily, to Greg's point, sacrifice one player to pay no attention to the passive box or whatever you're playing, just stand next to number 8 the entire time.
Absolutely.
So
I was gonna say it's the same here in Canada watching McDavid on the power play, because I'm not a fan of the Oilers or any of the Canadian teams. Well, I guess I'm a fan of Calgary, but even when I watch McDavid with the puck on the power play, I'm like, and it's just like I'm not even rooting for the guy. And this dude just has all the speed and skill to do anything on the power play. I wish Detroit had somebody like that who made me like have that same emotion with the puck. And I mean, not that Larkin is nothing, but it's just like it's still, you kind of wish you had that sort of energy or emotion, or like that
he's gonna score sort of thing.
Right. And there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, yesterday at times, even though we got one, we gave up a shorty.
Yep.
And there were Carolina had multiple odd man rushes on the penalty kill. There was one 3-on-1 that they had that I'm screaming at the TV because they have 3 of their 4 guys are in our zone. Somebody get the puck and just pass it up. We've got numbers, and those have been the things that I guess I shouldn't be complaining about giving up a shorthanded goal, because we've had a little more success on the power play, but they're growing. There's a lot more work to be done, but I don't think Larkin being out solved the power play issue.
Yeah,
I don't buy into that school of thought.
I am really interested though to see when he comes back, and if they are scoring, or if they're performing at because maybe there is something to this. Maybe we're all wrong, and maybe it's actually a Dylan Larkin issue. I doubt that, but I am intrigued to see if he comes back and if he is a difference maker, if they have the same level of success, more or less.
I do wonder if they have Larkin in the right spot on the power play. Maybe they need to sort of shift him around in the alignment. Maybe that's kind of a thing here. But
that's we were talking about. That's we were talking about with Hronek. I don't know how many weeks ago, where we were saying he's in the wrong spot and he needs to be at one of the flanks. And
well, you guys, whose fault it is?
It's Valtteri Filppula. Number 51. If you're watching this show, I just want you to know I have nothing against you. Okay,
I'm
love
so
your work.
sorry for bringing you up. I'm really, I really feel bad.
Anyway,
blame Filppula.
So speaking of since we all love Filppula, as we made very clear, I would like to talk about our favorite Red Wings. Now, if any one of you says Filppula, I'm going to lose it. But I feel like this segment's actually going to kind of date us. If any of you out there watching are wondering how old the three of us are, I feel like this segment might give you a hint. Like I said, I want to go around and have everyone kind of share who their favorite Red Wing of all time is and why. Ian, I want to start with you on this one. I'm very curious who your favorite Red Wing of all time is.
I was gonna say, growing up as a kid watching the Red Wings when they were making their runs in the late 2000s, I always had an affection for Johan Franz and Thomas Holmstrom. Okay. Those kind of gritty type guys. I always loved those guys. But my favorite Red Wing overall in the history of the Detroit Red Wings has to be
Gordie, Mr. Hockey.
With a C.
He approves. He approves.
Yeah. There you go.
So if you're guessing how old Ian is by this thing, he's like
72.
Yeah.
I am in my late 80s, getting my vaccine tomorrow. Believe it or not. Yeah. No, I've always it's
past your bedtime, Ian.
Yeah, it's dark outside. Geez. I've always loved watching video of him. It's so cool. Just back in the day about how he would play in terms of also having grace. He would never be a big celebrating guy. He would just put his arms up and then go over to the bench when he scores a goal. And he, nicest guy, never a bad thing said about him. I mean, unless you did something, stupid to him. But Gordie Howe, my favorite Red Wing of all time. Love Gordie Howe. I got a lot of time for Gordie Howe and listen to his stories. Read his book, and if you haven't read his book, fantastic read.
You don't earn the nickname Mr. Hockey on accident. That's about as good of a pick as you could get. Pat, who is your favorite Red Wing of all time?
So I'm going to go with my honorable mention, or start with my honorable mention, which is Brendan Shanahan.
Okay.
I've also got his jersey. By far my favorite forward defenseman, skater, if you will. Sure. Loved watching him play. It was in my junior high days when the Wings were starting to roll off Stanley Cup after Stanley Cup, and they did it as soon as he got to town. They ship Primo out, Shanahan comes in, and the Wings start winning cups, and
we all started doing the Irish jig.
Well, yeah. One of the cool, if you look at the trade tree, one of the coolest trades of all time is the Shanahan to Detroit trade. One of the most fascinating, when you look back, one of the most fascinating trades of all time.
It was stunning, not to get too off topic, but it was stunning to see the Wings dump Primo, Cicerelli, thinking, how are they going to get any better than that? And they did Paul Coffey. Coffey, who they played then in the 97 finals, he was on the Flyers, and they ended up beating poor Paul Coffey in the late 90s anyways. But I'm getting off topic, and that's my honorable mention. I don't think it's much secret who my favorite Red Wing of all time is. I may or may not actually have a doll of him as well. They're kick save and a beauty. And my son may or may not be named Ozzy. Now, granted, it's Oscar, but it lends itself to Ozzy, certainly.
Sure.
Growing up, I related a lot to him, to be honest, because he never seemed to get the respect that he deserved.
For sure.
I played goalie, never to the level of Tony Wolak levels, but but nonetheless, I did play between the pipes as well, and always just kind of, anytime I give up a bad goal, try to channel my inner Ozzy, if you will, and forget about it, because he always had those ones that were infuriating. Maybe you guys, you don't remember, Ian, you weren't even born yet, but in the 98 conference finals against Dallas. He gave that one up at center ice, and then they lost in overtime, and that would have crippled a mere mortal. But Chris Osgood came back the very next game, made some crazy saves, and pushed the Wings into the finals against the Capitals. So Chris Osgood, Hall of Fame worthy, in my opinion, without debate, and my favorite Red Wing of all time.
And let's not downplay the fact that he very well would have won the Conn Smythe in 2009 had things gone a little differently. Got a lot of time for Ozzy. As for me, speaking of 2009, 2008 more specifically, if Osgood would have won the Conn Smythe in 2009, my favorite player is the player who won the Conn Smythe in 2008. When I was in middle school, we adopted a cat. I named her Zettie, Zettie. One day, should I have a son, my hope is to name him Henrik. I've written an article at the Hockey Writers, check it out, about why the Red Wings should retire number 40. If I haven't spelled it out for you enough yet, my favorite player is Henrik Zetterberg. It was I was through the roof when they announced that he was going to be the captain after Nick Lidstrom. Now, why did I kind of gravitate to that player? 2003 was his rookie season, and that was right around the time where the Red Wings weren't just like sports for me, right? It really became like the Red Wings. This was hockey. This is my favorite sport. Like I really was like starting to really tune in. And there was this Swedish kid with really cool hair that came out of his helmet, and he did really cool things with the puck. And he never was like super flashy. A lot of people gravitate to Datsuk, and I completely get it. But Zetterberg always did the small things. He did the work that made Datsuk be able to do that crazy stuff that he did. Mm-hmm. He was a two-way force, and to some extent, I would say he's underrated in that sense. Never won a Selke trophy, but he very well could have. He won the Conn Smythe in 2008, and it's because of a penalty kill shift. Mm-hmm. He was a warrior on the ice. And then when he had his back issue that kind of came up during the 2014 Olympics, and that kind of was the beginning of the end for him, he fought through it. We knew he was going through it in the last part of his career, and yet he still was putting up good numbers. He still put up like 60 points, and he was like 80% of himself. I've got a lot of time for a player that does it at all ends of the ice, that can do the highlight reel stuff, and is one of those. Obviously, I've never been in the Red Wings locker room, but he struck me as the kind of guy who just led by example. He wasn't a rah, let's do this, boys guy. He was I'm gonna do it, and you look at me, and we'll do this together type of thing. I thought it spoke about.
I was gonna say that's part of why I'm a Red Wings fan. Like growing up and watching him was like it was a treat watching him, because
Absolutely.
it was the same sort of thing where like, I'm going to do this. We are going to do this. And they did it. They did, like for most of, like when they were around, they did it, and they won games, and they were competitive, and they were fun to watch. And Zetterberg, one of my favorites too. The thing about the Red Wings that you can't name everybody because we'll be here for hours.
Yes.
Right.
But no, that's not a bad selection. Can't argue with that.
Well, also too, Hank represented the winged wheel with a lot of pride, with a lot of integrity. I have read the stories of just how hard he took it when the streak stopped.
Yep.
Though A, not his fault. B, it had to stop sometime, and C, they wouldn't have gone as long on that streak if not for him.
Absolutely.
You admire the man, the player, the way he represented the city, and I thought he was a great captain. He's a great player, and certainly up there on my list too, Devin.
For sure. one little thing before we close out. I thought it was really, I guess, telling the kind of not just the kind of leader he was, but just the kind of man he is. That when Larkin was having his press conference when he was announced as the captain, he kind of kept going back to the example that Zetterberg set for him. And Larkin even said during last year's debacle of a season that at some point Larkin called up Zetterberg and he was reaching out for advice. How do I deal with this? I've never lost like this. What am I supposed to do? And the fact that, Zetterberg doesn't owe this organization anything anymore. He very well could have taken Larkin's call and been like, I don't know, figure it out. But he didn't. And he said that if Larkin ever needs anything, he's there for him. And I got a lot of time for guys like that.
I heard that he told Larkin it was Filppula's fault.
Yeah. Yes. Damn it, Filppula. That is gonna be our show. We ended it on a sentimental note. I'm feeling gooey inside. This is good. Pleasure talking with you, with both of you guys again this week. Once again, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, if you're watching on YouTube, please do so. It'll help us out a lot. Drop a like. If you're watching on Facebook, also drop a like, drop a comment, and share it. I'm sure you've got some crazy uncles out there that love the Red Wings that would love to hear our discussions on how great Chris Osgood and Gordie Howe and Henrik Zetterberg are. Thank you to both of you for joining me again this week. Thank you for watching us, and we look forward to discussing more Red Wings next season. Thank you very much.
Thank you.